Closer, released in 1994. And I saw this article in the latest Metal Hammer magazine. And it's pretty cool because it'll talk about the story behind the song Closer. Released in 1994, like I said. Now, that was pretty much the peak of my clubbing days. And there was a time, religiously, that song would come up at the end of every night, right before closing time, when people are trying to hook up for the rest of the night, if you know what I mean. In my clubbing days, without fail, that song would come on every single time I went out. And to this day, I actually hear it on the radio. Obviously, it's vulgar. It has the F word in it. But I still hear it on the radio from time to time where they either mute the word or bleep it out, but they still play it. That's how iconic this song is. And it's actually a really damn good song too. Ironically, this morning I read that young people these days from the age of 15 to 25 are actually having less sex than back in my day. One could argue the reasons, but social media I think is undeniable. That's one of the reasons. Young people are more anxious now. The world is in a different place, more worrisome. It's hard to make a living these days. So the stress around that and the anxiety and busyness that social media brings to people, I'm sure that affects it. But I'm saying maybe the cure to that, more people need to listen to Closer. That's what I'm saying. Probably the kids these days over 15 have no idea about this song. I say we should let this song rip all over the place and bring the song back again into the limelight so these kids can start having fun again, if you know what I mean. All right, let's get into this article. You ready? Let's do it.
Welcome to the It's One Louder podcast. Your host, PJ Pat, has done absolutely nothing that you would know about. So turn up the volume one louder and enjoy the show.
Okay, the article is called The Story Behind Closer, 9 Inch Nails. How a misinterpreted horny anthem turned Trent Reznor into an unlikely and unwilling rock and roll sex god. Words, Dave Everly. It was Motley Crue drummer and hard rock's bozo-in-chief Tommy Lee, of all people, who nailed the enduring NSFW brilliance of 9 Inch Nails' 1994 single, Closer. Come on, dude. I want to fuck you like an animal, he enthused to US magazine Blender, referring to the song's provocative, lyrical hook. That's the all-time fuck song. Those are pure fuck beats. Trent Reznor knew what he was doing. You can fuck to it, you can dance to it, and you can break shit to it. Yeah, I gotta say, he's got a point. He wasn't wrong. Even if that wasn't wholly the intention of the man who wrote it, Closer was 3 minutes of provocative industrial disco perfection. A PVC-clad anthem with 1 foot in the strip club and 1 in the fetish club. It helped accelerate Nail's transformation from seething goth malcontents into one of the defining bands of the 1990s and beyond, elevating Trent Reznor to the status of cultural figurehead, albeit one who was on the outside looking in. I think popular music sucks today, Trent told Spin magazine back in 1994. For the most part, I cannot stand the shit that's at the top of the charts. Now, I'm not saying my sole mission is to turn people onto other music, but maybe I can change things a bit. 1994, I don't know if I'd agree with that. I mean, that's still, I wouldn't say it's the peak of grunge, but that was still pretty damn popular. I know Kurt Cobain committed suicide in April of 1994, so that's after In Utero. But I think around that time, there was still some good shit going on. I think, Silverchair was at its peak then. And a lot of the grunge bands, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden were still releasing albums too. So I would tend to disagree. I think back then, especially the mainstream stuff was pretty damn good. Especially if you compare it to today. And I'm not just an old fart talking. You kids, go back and listen to all the popular songs back in 94 and you tell me if I'm out of my head. Actually, you know what? Here, let me look it up. All right, I'm looking it up right now. I just did a Google search on the top rock hits of 1994, and I think Trent is a little out of his mind. No offense, but you got Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun and Spoon Man were major hits. Super Unknown was a groundbreaking album, hugely popular. Love those songs. Stone Temple Pilot had a big year with songs like Interstate Love Song, Vaseline, and Big Empty. Wow. Collective Soul, Shine. Okay, that was good. Nirvana's All Apologies was a significant rock hit back in 1994. And In Utero, love that album. Green Day, Basket Case. Come on. Dookie? Come on. That's unbelievable. Meat Puppets, Backwater, Alice in Chains, No Excuses, and I Stay Away. That's one of my favorite primary acoustic albums of all time. It was called Jar of Flies. Absolutely amazing. Counting Crows, Mr. Jones. I mean, come on. Counting Crows' first album. Poof, such an awesome classic. Live, Selling the Drama. Okay, yeah, Live I would say is like the 90s Creed, but, it was okay. The Offspring, Come Out and Play. Come on. That song and that album, that was groundbreaking too. I think up to that point, a lot of the kids had never heard anything like that. And so this was all mainstream and top of the charts in 1994. I'm sorry, Trent, but you're out of your mind. All right, but I digress. Trent has a right to have his opinion. I think it's a little bit of I'm better than you type attitude, but shall we continue? We shall. Ironically, Nine Inch Nails themselves fitted into the category of popular music by that point. The success of their debut album, Pretty Hate Machine, released in October 1989, but turbocharged by the band's appearance on the inaugural Lollapalooza tour in the summer of 1991, had done more than any other record to introduce mainstream audiences to industrial music. And I gotta say, Nine Inch Nails, really kudos to them. They were the ones that really did make industrial music mainstream. I mean, there were other bands here and there that had that type of sound, but no one really blew it up like Nine Inch Nails for sure. So you gotta give them credit. Pretty Hate Machine and its follow-up, 1992's nihilistic Broken EP, turned Trent into the high priest of self-loathing, providing the soundtrack for people who hated themselves but still wanted to dance. However, it'd be their second full-length album, 1994's The Downward Spiral. What a classic that kicked Nine Inch Nails to the next level and turned its creator into bona fide star, albeit a reluctant one, and Closer was a big reason for its success. So from what I read, when Trent recorded The Downward Spiral, guess what? He actually recorded in Shannon Tate's house. So if you heard of Charles Manson and the Manson murders, the murders took place in, Shannon Tate was, I believe, an actress at the time. They murdered her and a couple other people, and the murders happened in her house. And believe it or not, Trent Reznor actually rented her house to record The Downward Spiral, that whole album. And so there's a haunting mystique to it, and that probably contributed to the mood of the album. But yeah, isn't that kind of crazy? But, if there was anyone to do that, it would be Trent at the time. He probably was, I'm pretty sure he was totally on drugs and addicted at that time and just going down a quote-unquote downward spiral. All right, back to the article. Nine Inch Nails hadn't so much coalesced around a series of demos Trent had written and recorded while working as a studio hand in his adopted hometown of Cleveland, Ohio in the late 80s. Over the next few years, it mutated from one-man project into a more recognizable brand, and their success began to grow. As a kid, Trent was a huge fan of Pink Floyd, and specifically their sprawling 1979 album, The Wall. Who wouldn't be? An increasingly unhinged concept album about a tortured rock star whose life spirals out of control as his fame grows. Following Pretty Hate Machine, he found himself in his own real-life version of The Wall. The Downward Spiral would be his attempt to dissect what was happening to him and turn it into art. It was about me, but a projection of me, a character who systematically destroys all these different things in his life in search for some sort of answer, Trent told Metal Hammer of the album in 2005. And in the crossfire is sex, relationships, trust, the specter of religion and its flaws and its lies and its hollowness, and drugs and a sense of purpose and self-loathing and desperation. I'm pretty sure he was all feeling all that at the time for sure. He elected to record this song in Los Angeles. Rather than a regular studio, he rented a house in the Hollywood Hills that he'd spotted in an advert and set his equipment up there. The house, located at 150 Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon, had been the scene of the 1969 murder of actress Sharon Tate. That's what I was just saying. 4 of her friends and her unborn son by the followers of the cult leader Charles Manson. There you go. While the Tate house would become part of the Downward Spiral's mythology, Trent insisted that he'd had no idea of the place's grim history when he signed the rental agreement, and knocked back claims that he idealized fucked up old hippie Manson. That didn't stop him nicknaming the studio Le Pig, a reference to the fact that the killers had smeared the words pig on the walls in their victims' blood. Whoa, pretty gruesome. The bestial theme bled into the downward spiral, not least on Closer, although Trent had the song's carnal I Wanna Fuck You Like an Animal lyric in place when he began writing and demoing the song before arriving in Los Angeles. The song started with that line, Trent told Spin. Everything else kind of got pieced around it. That's a pretty damn good chorus, Trent. You got that one right. One musical inspiration for the track was Iggy Pop's 1977 song Nightclubbing, a throbbing disco punk song Iggy co-wrote with Trent's big hero David Bowie. I love that song, Nightclubbing. I think the first time I heard that song was Trainspotting. Remember that movie? That song was on the soundtrack. I think it was when he went clubbing, actually. Yeah, he was at the club, and I think they were playing that song. And loved it. I remember playing that Trainspotting soundtrack. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. It's really, really good. All right, back to the article. Another sample came from Roxy Music's smooth 1982 single, Take a Chance With Me, although the Nine Inch Nails man reversed it and sped it up until it was unrecognizable. Really? But compared to the anger and self-disgust that fueled much of the rest of the downward spiral, Closer was almost a beat. I thought, how am I going to be able to do this? I'm supposed to be tough. I got to act tough, Trent told Spin. But I'm having fun doing it, so I'm going to do it. It's scary to do that than to do Mr. Self-Destruct type songs, he added, referencing the album's intense opening track. The resulting song was certainly the poppiest moment on the downward spiral, although pop is a relative term. Lines such as, you let me violate you, you let me desecrate you, and my whole existence is flawed, you get me closer to God, blurred in the lines between sex and religion, obsession and control. The I wanna fuck you like an animal hook only added to the fetish club vibe. Man, reading this article is definitely taking me back to my clubbing days and being just pumped full of testosterone and hearing the song and dancing around pretty women and looking at each other. It's definitely puts you into some sort of hypnotic trance on the dance floor, especially when you had a couple of brewskis beforehand, if you know what I mean. It's super negative and super hateful, Trent told Details magazine of the song's lyrics. It's, I am a piece of shit and I am declaring that, and if you think you want me, here I am. Closer was released as the second single from the Downward Spiral in May of 1994, 2 months after the album came out. So just a parenthesis here. Trent was talking about how Closer sounded poppier than anything else in the album and that he was kind of scared to do it, so that pushed him to actually do it. So he stayed loyal to that logic and thinking, because I remember when he released that really poppy album, what was that called? And he came up with that really commercial song. Okay, right. The song was called The Hand That Feeds, and it was a very much more commercial song that he was used to doing. And it was a very popular, I actually love that song. That album is actually pretty good. It's very commercial, very accessible, but that song, The Hand That Feeds, is amazing. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And I remember my band used to play it at gigs and love that song, love the vibe, and it's pretty catchy. But I remember reading at that time that he was saying that, you know, people kind of expected him to do the self-destruct, industrial, 9-minute songs, whatever. And when he started writing this poppier, more accessible album, again, he said pretty much the same thing he just said, where he was kind of scared to do it. And so that's what really pushed him to do it. And that was a risk. He was saying that writing a poppier album was actually a risk for him. And doing the same old thing was just boring to him. And I'm sure that bode for him very well. All right, back to the article. To direct the video, Trent enlisted Mark Romanek, the man behind high-profile promos by the likes of Madonna, Lenny Kravitz, and David Bowie. Previous Nine Inch Nails videos had ranged from the glitchy, lo-fi visuals for Pretty Hate Machine singles, Down In It, and Head Like a Hole, to the graphic S&M theme clip for 1992 single Happiness and Slavery, which saw performance artist Bob Flanagan undergoing unsimulated sexual torture. Not surprisingly, it was banned by MTV and everyone else. The Closer video wasn't quite as full on as that, but it still pushed the boundaries of what a mainstream artist could get away with. Filmed inside an abandoned hospital in Los Angeles, it featured a grainy stream of surreal images, including nude models, crucified monkeys, and angel wings made of animal carcasses. Typical Trent Reznor right there. Despite its strangeness and perversity, it was slicker and glossier than past Nine Inch Nails videos. In the Closer video, I was myself but in a foreign environment, he pointed out on 2005's The Work of Director Mark Romanek DVD. It's strange when you're playing in front of 30 people lip syncing, especially when you're hanging upside down with a piece of meat behind you. MTV was never going to play Closer in its original form, but an edited version went onto rotation. Similarly, the song was picked up by radio stations despite the constant stream of sexual F-bombs dropped throughout, which were replaced with silence rather than bleeped out. Again, something I mentioned earlier, yeah. So to this day, I still hear it on the radio. Its status as a key Nine Inch Nails track was cemented by its presence in their memorable set at Woodstock 94, which saw the Mud Cake Band play to an estimated 350,000 people. Nine Inch Nails had become proper rock stars. Yeah, I remember that. In 94, it was them and Green Day, I think, where their sets were completely mud-filled because it started raining and there was just mud everywhere. The crowd was just throwing mud at the band. The crowd was throwing mud at itself. And I remember Nine Inch Nails, they were just covered in mud. Trent covered in mud. Such a memorable set. Unforgettable. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube. I'm sure there are clips of it, and you won't believe it. They're just like covered in mud. All their instruments covered in mud. And Trent Reznor just so freaking intensely singing. And so awesome. I wish I was there. Closer gets added at MTV, and somehow people at Woodstock think we did good. And somehow the timing of Rolling Stone finally offering us a cover like it was all perfectly planned, which it's not, he told Rip Magazine. I know when I go to sleep at night, I've made the record I want to make without any compromise. If that is a sellout, then I'm 100% sellout. It didn't take long for Closer to find its place in the wider culture. It appeared in the opening credits of David Fincher's bleak 1995 thriller Seven. Awesome movie. By 2000, Fred Durst was referencing it in Limp Bizkit's song Hot Dog, twisting the lyric around. You want to fuck me like an animal? You like to burn me on the inside. And Trent Reznor himself, he has expressed mixed feelings about the song that did more than any other to raise his band's profile. What I hoped would have been a higher art thing became a frat house, date rape, strip club, anthem thing, he told Keyboard Magazine in 1995. Sad, I mean, it is an ugly song, no doubt. It's not nice. It's not life-affirming. It's probably the ugliest song on the record, which is why I dressed it up nice, easy to listen to music. Wow, there you go. And it says here, Nine Inch Nails' Tron Ares soundtrack is out now via Interscope Records. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie Tron, Nine Inch Nails does a soundtrack for that, and it's unbelievable. It is awesome. Especially when you sit in movie theaters with the sound system blasting at you. Whew. I'm telling you, yeah, definitely go check out the movie and the soundtrack. You can't go wrong. And look at these pictures. You know, back then, Trent was pretty much a druggie and really skinny. I've seen him, I think, twice now. And last time I saw him, he was super buffed. You know, he gave up that self-destructive behavior. He's buff now. He goes to the gym. He's healthy. And he's been involved with tremendous projects. I just love seeing Nine Inch Nails and specifically Trent Reznor's evolution in his art. You know, he's gone from the self-destructive, goth, industrial, dark type of music when he first started his career. And obviously, he's matured as a grown man now, and he's working with other people. He's doing a lot of soundtracks right now. He's been involved with like amazing soundtracks, movie soundtracks that is. You know, I'm looking at the list now. Natural Born Killers, Lost Highway, The Social Network. Wow, I forgot about that. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl. Just amazing movies. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, The Killer, and recently Tron. I mean, he's found a knack to associate himself with talented people and get involved in these amazing projects. So kudos to Trent. I'm really happy for him. I mean, to see him do all kinds of stuff. And also, he's still continuing to doing 9 Inch Nails. I mean, you gotta give him credit for that. He doesn't have to. He can just tour with all his old repertoire, but he still continues to make new music. That's a true artist for you. Alright, I hope you liked that article. Hope you enjoyed my little 2 cents, and I really appreciate you joining. Thank you so much to all the subscribers. Recently, I've been noticing the subscribers uptick. I can't tell you enough how thankful I am and how grateful I am for all of you to tune in every time I release one of these videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Happy holidays.